Honor on behalf of our 550,000 men and women that we represent to endorse Joe Biden for president and Kamala Harris for vice president. You're welcome, Mr. Vice President. You know, leaders stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. That's Joe Biden. Leaders tell the truth, even when it's inconvenient. That's Joe Biden. Leaders understand that the strength of our country is tied to the strength of the middle class. That means strong unions, protection for workers, and a fair tax policy. Joe Biden knows that. Joe stands with working Americans and knows the value the union brings to our communities. Joe stands with working carpenters, and because of that, we're proud to stand with Joe Biden, the next President of the United States. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is James Callahan. I'm the General President of the Operating Engineers, 400 members strong, 400,000 members strong. And it's our honor to have the next President of the United States tour our great Local 66 training center that underscores what we do in labor. And if we didn't have to, it wasn't a far reach to explain to someone like Joe Biden what working Americans do. I want to thank Jim Kuntz, the President and Vice President of Local 66, my Secretary-Treasurer, Brian Hickey, who's flown in from Chicago, to underscore and relay to Vice President Biden that we, at our General Executive Board, wholly endorse him and Senator Harris for the next ticket of the President and Vice President of the United States. As Joe has said to us many a times, he understands what a paycheck does to working people. Not a dividend check for people that are just waiting for a dividend check on their savings or their investment. He understands that people live check to check, and the guidance that go with that, and the way that this administration, current administration, wants to tear that down. So we wholeheartedly endorse, as the next President of the United States, Joe Biden. Thank you very much.
I better not touch it. Hello, everybody. It's great to be here. I just want the record to show that Jim promised if I get elected President of the United States, I can go down to the Houston facility and work and try to drive any of this machinery I get a shot at. I used to have a license to drive tractor trailers, but I tell you what, I'm looking to get that sucker, that big Caterpillar. That's a good one. But I'm not sure I want to try that crane, man. That looks awful tough. I know. Well, I tell you what, it's great to be here. You know, there was an old expression when I was growing up in Scranton. You go home with them that brung you to the dance. And labor brought me to the dance a long, long time ago. They're the ones who are the operating engineers and the carpenters. Early on, first time that I ran. People who laid the tracks and the pipelines, who operate the cranes and shape the skyline, who build the foundations of everything we rely on. Labor, as I said, brought me to the dance, not an exaggeration. And the only reason I'm standing here today as a candidate for president, if it hadn't been for the labor back in 1972 when I was a 29-year-old kid, just after Labor Day, I was losing the election. I think it was 54-19 going into the election. And then labor came on board. Carpenters across the board, just up and down, operating engineers, the steel workers, and we ended up winning by an overwhelming margin of 3,200 votes statewide when Nixon won the state with 68% of the vote. So I don't forget. My dad used to have an expression, for real. He said, the only way to deal with the abuse of power, Joey, is with power. And the only people who can take on the major corporate interests and the oligarchs who are abusing power, the working men and women, are organized labor. That's not an exaggeration. The only ones. And that's why I've been so supportive of labor my whole career. I've never forgotten everything that they've done for me, you've done for me, but not just for me, but for the country. You are literally, not figuratively, the backbone of America. The military is the spine of America, but you're the backbone of America. An awful lot of you served in the military as well. You're the ones who actually built this country, not Wall Street bankers and CEOs. You built the country, and you're going to build it, and you're going to build it back better than it was before. And I want to thank Jim. I want to thank President Callahan and his team, as well as the folks in Local 66, for welcoming me here today and giving us an inside look at everything you're doing to rebuild and energize Western Pennsylvania. I'm from Eastern Pennsylvania. I'm from up in Lackawanna County, in that valley. And a lot's going to happen here. I am so confident, I really am, that we're not only coming back, we're going to come back big. I mean hard-working folks. I want to thank Vice President Frank Spencer and the Carpenters for all they do as well. I'm honored the trust you placed in me, and I want to thank you a lot for it. And if I have the honor of becoming president, I'll be fighting for you every single day, and I promise you, hear me now, you will have a seat at the table at the White House. No fundamental decisions will be made without you sitting in. Literally, not figuratively, literally. That's a word. You have my word on it. And folks, you know, I've been on a train today. I've traveled this kind of like going back home. I traveled over 2,100,000 miles over 40 years on Amtrak, going back and forth every single solitary night to see my kids, a 250-mile round trip. But we came today, we rented an Amtrak train to do a whistle-stop tour. We started off in Cleveland, across Ohio, into Western Pennsylvania. And riding the rails reminds me of when I would take the train home from Wilmington to Washington and back every night. And I used to go back, when you get through beyond the Beltway going into Baltimore, you go through a number of middle-class neighborhoods, like houses like I grew up in, 3-bedroom, split-level homes, that kind of thing. And I used to literally, when we'd have debates on the floor of the Senate, I'd look out that window, and I'd sit there, and I'd see the lights on in the homes we were passing, just like we saw coming from Cleveland into Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh to here. And I'd wonder, are they having the same kind of conversations at that table that my mom and dad had at our table? Are they having the same kind of conversations the guys I grew up with and women I grew up with had? No, honey, we can't get 4 new tires in the car. We can't afford it. We got to wait another month. Literally, not figuratively, literally. Or, you know, I know we need a new hot water heater, but we can't afford it. We got to wait. It's going to take a little while longer. You have a vast majority of the middle class saying before we got into this recession that if they got a bill for an unexpected bill for $400 in a month that they didn't expect, they'd either have to borrow the money or put it off. They're neighbors I grew up in. And you're the only ones that have saved them from people from having to do that, if in fact you're able to have work. You know, folks, I knew all those families inside and those families and on that route today. I didn't know their names, but I know what was on their minds and what their concerns were. They're not looking for a handout. All they're looking for is a hand up. My dad used to say, Joe, I don't expect the government to solve my problems, but I sure in heck expect them to understand my problems. We're not understanding the problems of the vast majority of Americans today. All they're looking for is a fair shot and a little bit of dignity and a little bit of respect instead of being looked down on, so that the parents could look their kids in the eye and say, honey, everything's going to be okay. My dad used to have that expression. The job's a lot after we left Scranton, and he had to move to Delaware and commute every day for over a year, and then finally be able to get us down, not every day, once a week, he'd come back every week. And finally we got an apartment in Claymont, Delaware, a little steel town that has no more steel now. But, and then we finally ever get a home 4 years later. But you know, it's what a lot of people are still going through. There's a stark difference from what I saw last night on the debate stage. An entitled, self-serving president who inherited everything in his life and squandered it. A president who calls his own supporters, according to some staff members, his own supporters, disgusting. Who thinks that folks who put their lives on the line for our country in the military are losers and suckers. It's despicable. I've dealt with guys like Trump my whole life. The guys who might let you park the cars at their country club, pick up a few bucks, but even if you had the money, wouldn't let you join that country club because of your religion or because of your background. Guys who stiff contractors, building their hotels and their golf courses, just to put a few more bucks in their pocket and seem to take some joy in it. Guys who think the rules don't apply to them. Guys who make tens of millions of dollars and pay $750 in federal taxes in a year. Donald Trump sees things from Park Avenue. I see him from where I grew up in Scranton and Claymont. My mom, Jean Finnegan Biden, had a backbone like a ramrod, all 5'1" of her. But my mom used to have an expression, I really mean it. I used to be a stutterer, and when you're a stutterer, you're used to bullies. It's easy to make fun of somebody who talks like that. That's how I learned to fight. The joke used to be, Biden's like shoe leather. You can beat him, but he's going to hurt you. Because you have to stand up to these folks. Well, my mom would say, Joey, look at me. Look at me. Remember, nobody is better than you. Nobody. But everybody's your equal. And she meant it. She meant it. As I said, you know, my dad's expression when we moved to Delaware was he talked about how a job is a lot more than about a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about your place in the community. Those values shaped my whole life. If you look back on my career, you notice it shaped my whole career. My Build Back Better plan, it shaped my views as president, what I'll do. It's all about giving communities like Greensburg and New Alexandria and Claymont and Scranton and places and parts of Cleveland I just came out of, giving women and men who work on pipelines and construction sites a fair shot. We're going to invest $2 trillion in infrastructure, including more than $50 billion in 1 year to get to repairing our schools, our highways, our bridges, revitalizing our locks and our dams, making our inland waterways the finest in the world. That's what attracts businesses. That's what brings employment. They talk about how much my plan cost. Well, guess what? Those investments are going to create millions of high-paying jobs, building a modern infrastructure and a durable energy future. And I promise you this, in my administration, collective bargaining, now hear me, collective bargaining will be sacred. It's a guarantee. A guarantee. And union apprenticeships will be sacred. The last thing we need is corporate America taking over apprenticeships programs like they tried to do. We're going to stand up for prevailing wage and benefit protections of the Davis-Bacon Act. I'll guarantee, you may recall the president who used to like to surprise me at State of the Union addresses says, and Sheriff Joe will take care of the Build Back, we didn't call it Build Back Better, it was a Recovery Act. $800 billion. Not a single project was not prevailing wage. As a guarantee, every single solitary project we built. And so, folks, we're going to level the playing field for you and for your families. We're going to have wages and benefits. We're going to lower health care costs, prescription drug prices. We're going to take on the opioid crisis for real with effective treatment, making 4 years of public college, universities, apprentice programs, tuition free. Anybody making less than $125,000 a year, if they go to a state university, they go to a community college, it's automatic, or if they're in an apprentice program, it's going to be free. My wife has an expression. She's a community college professor. Any country that out-educates us will out-compete us. And the cost is staggering for people having to carry the burden. And we're going to do it without asking anyone who makes under $400,000 a year to pay one more penny in taxes. Guarantee my word on it. Because what we're going to do, we're going to get rid of that god-awful $2 trillion tax cut that Trump passed. $1.4 trillion are going to the top 1%, a significant portion of that going to the top 1/10 of 1%. We're going to start rewarding work, not wealth. We're going to make sure corporations begin to pay their fair. You know, the Fortune 500 companies, 91 don't pay a single penny in taxes, and some of them make multi-billion dollars. How about your taxes? You pay nothing in taxes? We're not going to punish anybody. Everybody's going to pay their fair share. Look, a lot of people around here voted for Donald Trump last time. I get it. I understand why. I've been asked many times in recent years, how do we get to a place where the people who teach our kids, take care of our sick, build our bridges, operate our cranes, who race into burning buildings and don't ask who's in the other end there, whether you're black or white or Muslim or Christian, people who in fact grow our food, how do we get to a place where they don't think we don't see them or hear them or respect them? Well, I see them. I hear them. I respect them. I know them. They're family. And it's going to change. It's going to change with me. Look, this is not a partisan moment. This is an American moment. And I mean that seriously. Think about it. We have a chance to put the anger and division has overtaken this country behind us. We can be what we are at our best. One people, one America. We just need to remember who in God's name we are. This is the United States of America. Think about this. Never once in our history, when we've set our mind to it, have we not been able to accomplish whatever we set our mind to when we've done it together. There's not a single thing we can't do. And with your help, I'm going to get elected. And with us working together, I promise you, there's going to be a different America. We, again, reward work, not just wealth, where people are treated with decency. I'll conclude by saying a president's words matter, no matter how good or bad a president is. The words they utter matter. They can take us to war. They can bring peace. They can make the market rise or fall. They can change people's lives. And this president has breathed hate and division under the rocks here. Hate only hides. It doesn't go away. And it matters what presidents say. You heard what he said last night when he was asked by the moderator, will you condemn white supremacy? And he fuddled around, didn't say anything. I said, how about the Proud Boys? And he said, well, in context of the election, he said, just tell them to stand down and stand by. Go online. Look at Proud Boys. They got a new emblem now, literally. It says, stand down and stand by. implying that if he loses the election, something may have to be done. I promise you that won't happen. The American people are going to speak. They're going to speak in large numbers. And nobody is going to get in the way of our democratic process going forward. Nobody. Period. This is the United States of America. We're not some tin-horn dictatorship or third world country. This is the United States of America. So I want to thank you all for your endorsements. I really mean it. It means a lot to me personally. Just on a personal level, I appreciate it. So God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you so very much.